Okay. Cool. So what do you want to chat about today?
Well, I have got a few questions. I've got a few questions from other people.
Sure.
I'm not even going to bother introducing this. I'll introduce you a little bit, but I think people fucking hate intros. It's like they just want to listen to a podcast. They want to just put it in their ears and go. So I'll give a little bit of an idea as to who you are, but most people who listen to this will know who you are and what you do. So essentially, mate, we're just going to chat through a few questions that I've got that I personally wanted to ask you, and I thought that would provoke good conversation. And I also put it on my Instagram, put it on a few of the things that I run, and got a few funnily enough, very similar questions to what I wanted to know. So we'll just run through them and see where it takes us. So, guys listening, if you don't already know Valentin is a natural pro bodybuilder. He's also a coach, and he's also a person that you should be following, in my opinion. He's slowly getting to grips with the Instagram story feature, so he's been a bit more active on that. And the way that you speak, Valentin, is very good. So you should continue doing more of them for sure. And just I think from my perspective, within the fitness industry and within potentially this niche of bodybuilding coaching, I relate very closely to what Valentin has to say. And I think a lot of topics me and Valentin tend to agree on, or at least have similar opinions compared to others. So this will certainly be one to listen to, guys. So first things first, you had an extremely long year last year. Whether people followed it or not, your year was quite dense in terms of the competitions that you did. And at the end, I remember when we spoke, you'd finished. And at the end, things sort of seemed to potentially sort of start to diminish a little bit in terms of the way that you looked and the way that things were running. So what I want to know now is, what has that prep taught you in terms of what you'd potentially do in the future with regards to a natural bodybuilding contest prep?
Awesome. Yeah, man, that's a great question. And I've been thinking about that a lot, because to give people some perspective, I started my prep in November 2016.
Yeah.
And I started with Cliff Wilson, and then I did my first show at the end of April, did my second show at the end of May, and then we decided to jump into another show in mid-August, and that was a big mistake.
Yeah.
I can now confidently say that, but at the end of the day, I'm still very happy about the experiences I've made.
Sure.
Because now I really know what I will change for my next season in 2020.
Yeah.
And even though natural bodybuilding preps by nature are longer and should be long, and time is your number one ally, you have to be very careful how long you extend your season between shows. Because going from the end of May to the mid of August was brutal. It was brutal, man. Going from the end of April to the end of May was a piece of cake. It was nothing. It was just, hey, I'm motivated. I still feel like I've retained all my muscle. I want to do shows. I want to get better from show to show. But in the midst of like June, I was getting the feeling that I won't be able to top my shape from the end of May in August.
Sure.
So I was just not able to peak from show to show, right? I was feeling like my shape is just diminishing. So
Valentin, did you realize that at the time? Like, did you definitely see it?
Yeah, I saw it, and I definitely felt it, because it just felt so horrible.
Okay.
I mean, there's a difference between just feeling horrible, like the typical prep zombie mode, and just feeling down all the time, like having no joy in life at all, right? and that's basically what it was like 24/7. And if the big takeaway for people is, take your time, yes, make sure your starting point is on point, but don't try to extend your season over a certain time period, right? So my first show was I was prepping for, I think it was 30 weeks.
Sure.
Yeah. And that in my opinion is a perfect time frame. But then extending that again and again and again, it just gets brutal. And all of a sudden you're in calorie deficit for 40 weeks. That's not good, man. That's not good. for natural bodybuilders.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I asked you, did you notice, is because I think that definitely towards the end of a prep, we get to the point where we're quite neurotic in the way that we analyze ourselves, and we tend to just look for one thing. So, like, you know, I knew that when I was prepping, I was just looking for condition. I really dogged off fullness ages ago. But in the initial phases, when you're kind of fully fed, or at least more fed, you do care more about fullness. And I see that in people. I see that a lot. Like, people call off preps because they're like, I'm too small. I've lost too much muscle. But at the end of my prep, I only realised that I'd lost a lot of fullness between late August and November. I only realised that when I looked back through pictures. I was like, holy fuck, I lost a lot of tissue off my upper body.
Dude, there is one. There were guys from Germany visiting the gym, and they took a picture with me, and it was like in the middle of them, and they were quite tall. And if I look back at that picture now compared to the way I look now, it is crazy. The difference is insane. And back then I was just feeling down, and I was just feeling tired from prep. But I didn't feel that small, but I was small, man. I was tiny. So you will lose fullness, no doubt. That's just part of the game.
Of course.
But the longer you extend this whole thing, the more fullness you will lose. It's so
yeah, for sure. And on that topic, did you find that your upper versus your lower was different in terms of the way that it would distribute body fat in terms of it coming off?
Yes, I mean, what I see with most people and what I see with myself is that the upper body is ready early compared to the lower body. And I mean, that's usually the case. The glutes, the hamstring, it's just something that, mate. Yeah, man, that just holds fat for so long. And actually, for my first show, it took us like until I think 16, 17 days out until glute lines showed up, and all of a sudden they were there. And within a week, I made like 3 weeks of progress. But those areas are usually the last ones to go. And I definitely, after May, I had so much trouble maintaining my conditioning in my lower body. It was just a mixture of adherence problems, a mixture of water retention, all that stuff, just overall stress. And that really showed in the lower body. The upper body, I think it was fine, but if you're depending on your balance as a whole, as far as your physique goes, you really have everything has to stay where it should be, and that wasn't the case by probably mid-June.
Yeah, for sure. It's something that I talked about mid my prep. I was like, I think one of the genetic traits that would make a really good natural bodybuilder, or a bodybuilder in any division, untested or not, is to have favourable body fat distribution so that it comes off evenly. Because therefore you don't have to, you still have to sacrifice an element of fullness, but you don't have to sacrifice so much, off one area.
That's actually one thing that was actually one thing that people keep asking me about, because when I now post pictures and they see I still have abs and I have some detail in quads and stuff like that, and they think, you look amazing, like you've built so much muscle. And the reality is I didn't build that much muscle. It's just the body fat distribution is very favorable. Like I have a six-pack, whatever I do. I have veins in my forearms, whatever I do. But if I really would have to diet down again, everything is in my glutes and hams, man, and that just takes forever. And basically, after 4 weeks of dieting, my abs look like on stage, right? So
on the money,
that's just body fat distribution, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say once your legs got lean from a quad perspective, I've very rarely seen quads as detailed as yours from like top to bottom. I'd be very interested, just whilst we're on the topic of that, I know like cause is not correlation, so whatever you did might not work for someone else, kind of thing, but is there anything that you would think, I've done this for years and it really paid off in getting sort of top to toe quad development in terms of what you've done with training?
Not really, man, except that I just hit every rep range in the book and tried to progress my across several rep ranges. That's basically the magic of it, right?
Basics.
The next you throw, yes, always. You just throw in genetics, and there you go. They are my quads.
Yeah.
So I didn't do anything fancy, no.
For sure. So moving on a little bit into your off season, because we kind of touched on this last time. You're at a point where you just sort of exited your prep, and you were sort of going back and forth with yourself as to whether you like the idea of pushing up and pulling back, pushing up and pulling back. And I remember I was having this chat. So since we've had that chat, what's your opinion now on the off season for a natural bodybuilder, and how we should potentially approach things if the goal is maximum muscle gain?
Yeah, I still think I'm still in the camp of Cliff Wilson and trying to extend your growth period and try to go long term and try to stay as long in a calorie surplus as possible.
Sure.
Because I really think if you want to approach it more aggressively and with shorter phases, like doing 3 months of massing and then do a mini cut and so on and so forth, it can work definitely, and it depends on your character. But with that approach, we're also assuming that you're growing faster in those 3 months than somebody who's just taking 8 or 9 months at a time to grow. Sure. And I think the total time spent in the surplus is so much more important. And since my show in August, I haven't done a mini cut or anything. Cliff has just adjusted some of my macros, and we've gone up and down because I still had some adherence issues because the prep was so brutal.
Yeah, sure.
But I feel pretty good right now. So the thing is, I don't feel like I have to mini cut right now. Yep. We will mini cut soon, but that's basically, we just take what it gets us, and it's just a luxury. But I don't have to mini cut because I feel like shit every time I look into the mirror, right? So I think that's really, really important with guys coming off shows. As long as you can stay away from another calorie deficit, the better. So stay in your surplus, progress your lifts, and just try to get everything back to normal, right?
Yeah, for sure. And on that topic of feeling back to normal, you put a post up a long time ago, I think. Well, actually, quite recent, not too long ago, in terms of the reality of how long it takes to feel normal. Because I think you hit a point where you just felt 1 week and you were like, all right, this is what it feels like to be normal. So how long did it sort of take you, and when did you actually realize that everything started feeling more normalized?
That was around mid-January.
Okay.
So
quite a long time.
So that's a good 6 to 7 months since the show. Sure. And I think it really depends on how aggressively you've dieted, how long your prep was.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously genetics always play a part, but I think most importantly is you have to look at the length of your prep and how long you stayed in a calorie deficit. And it was very eye-opening to feel normal again in January, because all of a sudden going to the gym again and lifting and everything was just heaven again. It was like, man, this is really fun. Because until then it was just, okay, I feel better and better every week, but you still feel a little off, right? And it's a very good feeling to be back to normal, because now lifting in a calorie surplus and progressing in a calorie surplus is a piece of cake, man, compared to doing all this in a deficit. Yeah. I mean, when I see people, powerlifters or strongmen, whatever, complaining in the gym about training, I'm like, dude, you're always eating. So this is fun, man.
Yeah.
It should be fun. And it's so much easier when your calories are. So, yeah.
I think that from a motivational aspect as well, it's just like you're progressing lifts. You're not. It's the battle of retention is fun for a while, but then it just gets to a point where you're like, fuck retaining. Like, I just want to actually beat some numbers and walk out feeling like I've done something productive, you know?
Dude, this is one aspect I think that is greatly misunderstood about all of this, about bodybuilding, especially competitive bodybuilding. The prepping and all of that is fun and fine, but you're just revealing your improvements, right? You're not improving during prep. You're not building shit. So as soon as you're back in a surplus and you're progressing lifts again and you're getting stronger and you can see progress in your logbook and you just see something is happening and I'm getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
That's the stuff I really love about it. And that's one of the reasons why I want to stay away from the stage until 2020, because I really want to enjoy that again And I enjoyed that so much, especially in 2015 and 16. And then prep was coming, and it's long, man. It's just a long prep, and the time it takes to get back to normal is long. And I was just talking to Cliff about it recently, and he was saying the time frames in this sport are insane, man. Because you start prep in November 2016, and in January 2018, you feel normal again.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell? That's a long time, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's not just doing a 3-month diet and doing a show, and then 2 weeks later you're back to normal. So you have to be aware of that and really, really enjoy the process of building.
Yeah, for sure. On that topic of the length and the implications that it makes, I actually made a post or something, either on YouTube, Facebook, something, about the fact that you see quite a weird correlation with, and I'm not sure if you've noticed it through following forums, etc., but I've noticed a weird correlation between a wild amount of low calorie dieting within like IFBB pros who you'd expect to be on a greater caloric intake when dieting, considering body weight, what they're doing, etc. And you see them doing, large amount of expenditure coupled with very low calorie diets. And I think it kind of begs the answer that they are competing on a far too frequent basis, correct?
100%, man.
Yeah.
Take time off from the stage, because that's where you get better. And competing too often, I mean, some people just love competing. We both love competing, right?
I wish I could compete this year,
Yeah, and exactly. It's just not possible to compete at a high level every year for most of us. So there's some genetic freaks that can do that and just get on stage every single year and probably even look better or look the same. But if you really want to improve considerably, you have to take time off from the stage, man.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Cool. So one of the things that I do sort of like about you and the way that you sort of you preach things is certainly within your training. I love it.
Yeah.
I think that it's an all or nothing approach, and it's wicked. So where would you say over the last sort of couple of years, and even throughout the majority of your training career, where would you say you learned and agreed with the majority of the knowledge that you implicated into your training? So what sort of people did you follow to gain the knowledge that you have today that you've implemented into your training protocols?
That's a great question, because I was thinking about this today when I was writing a post on Instagram. And the thing is, about 3 months into finding out about bodybuilding, I found intensemuscle.com, the forum of Dan Strudel and Ken Skip-Hill and Scott Stevenson and all those guys. And they had a huge impact on my thinking as far as what bodybuilding is and how you should organize and program. So those people have definitely been a big influence. And it's always people that surround those people. Like you have Jordan Peters, you have James Hollingshead, you have all those guys from the UK who I really look up to, because they preach not the fluffy pump stuff bodybuilding training that you see from the genetic freaks who can just grow off 3 sets of 20 for whatever muscle group, but they just preach progression, and progression will be king. And whatever you try to do, you have to get better, and getting stronger is such a crucial part of bodybuilding. And to this day, this is probably the thing that stuck with me the most, that if you don't change the loads you're moving, you won't change yourself. Something has to change along the way, right? Whether it's reps, whether it's sets, whether it's the weight, whatever. But you have to force things. And people just think nowadays, if they have a perfectly fully periodized program that is evidence-based and whatever, that if they follow it for long enough, they will just grow a lot of muscle and get super strong. But that's not the case, man. You have to force things. Your body doesn't want this. So we have to really push it. And like you said, it's an all or nothing approach. And I think attitude and mindset is a big part of this, because we don't have a lot of time to do this, man. We have to hurry. We have to maximize every day, every week, every month, every set, every rep to get the most out of this. Because people are always asking me about my next season, my next competitive season, and they're like, oh my God, it's so far away. And to me, it's not really far away, man, because in 2 years, I'm going to start prepping again. That's just 2 years of me being able to progress and get as strong as possible in all kinds of rep ranges, right? So I want to maximize my time, and I really hope, especially the young guys getting into this, get this from the very early on, because the sooner you understand how important time is, the better you will be in the end. So yeah, those are just some of the people that come to mind.
Yeah, lovely. I think that's awesome. And one of my caveats to that is a lot of people, when we talk about intensity, we talk about progression of the logbook and all of these scenarios that make an effective training program in our eyes, a lot of people will come back to that and sort of say, you need to manage fatigue, you need to manage intensities. And of course, we agree with that in a sense. And we're supporters of that in a sense, but I think people get the message miscommunication. They see an intense set from us and expect that that's everything we do in one session, and that session looks like that throughout every single set. So one question that I have to you is how do you go about managing the ability to perform sets of maximal intensity? So when you go for that set that's all or nothing, how do the preceding sets and the preceding workouts look to surround that?
Yeah, you certainly, at a certain strength level and a certain training level, you can't just go balls out every session. That's not going to happen.
Sure.
Sooner or later you will injure yourself, or you will just never progress. But you can certainly manage your sessions in a way that you build up in short time frames to that one session where you just destroy everything and try to PR.
Yeah.
And I think so much is restricted by the way we think about this, and especially if you read a lot of stuff and consume a lot of information, you're basically a victim of that information, because in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I shouldn't be able to do this because of this
bubble, right?
Yeah, exactly. And all of a sudden you're in this big, and you're not able to get out. So I think most people that are listening to this are certainly able to progress from session to session. And if you're getting more and more advanced, right, that won't happen at a certain pace. But it will certainly be able that you improve by one rep, for example, then another rep, and over 3 weeks, that's 3 additional reps, and then maybe up the weight, and then drop down in reps again, and then start building up again. And you just do that over and over and over and over again. And it's boring. To us, it's not boring, because one rep is man, I'm excited about one extra rep.
For sure.
Because I know what's going to happen next week, and I'm just excited if I can keep a lift in my logbook for a very long time. People always come to me and they're like, I've been doing this exercise for like 6 months and I keep progressing and it's boring. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? You are progressing a lift for 6 months? That's the best thing ever, man.
Yeah.
You want to be in there for like 12 months if you can still progress. So the longer you can stay with the main lifts and the longer you can progress them, the better. And like I said, your pace will depend on your training level, and the more advanced you get, the slower it will be. But you take every bit of progress you can get, and if it's just a single rep in a session, that's totally fine.
What's your opinion on that topic of exercise rotation? You see a lot of coaches sort of preach that to progress, especially when you stall, potentially exercise rotation is an avenue for that, and we can take a lift that's now stalled and implement a very similar movement pattern to therefore progress the lift. So, what do you do personally when you find a lift that stalls? Do you rotate that exercise, and how does that look like?
First of all, look at what lift stalls. Secondly, I look at how long it stalls, or basically how much time I give it before I kick it out. But usually I like rotating exercises as long as it's not becoming a habit, right? Some people just have a weak muscle group and just rotate out lat exercises, for example, every 3 weeks. Yeah. And what the hell are you doing? So you have to look, first of all, at exercises. So exercise selection. If we're looking at, for example, something like a lateral, I mean, that's hard to progress, right? So we have to give isolation movements more time to progress in comparison to certain compound movements. And at the same time, we have to look at how long are we accepting lift to stall. And usually I usually tell clients that if a lift stalls for 2 sessions, then afterwards we're going to kick it out and find something new. But the most important thing is that you are aware that if we introduce a new lift, you have to kill it right out the gate. Just don't think you can train moderately with that new lift and just see progress again. You just have to go all in again and try to bump up your numbers, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. Once again, mindset is crucial here, and you should hold on for your dear life for every lift you have in your program, and only rotate them out if they really start stalling. And yeah, like I said, the smaller the exercises, the more time I give them. But the bigger the movement, the longer I try to keep them in my program.
Sure. Awesome. Yeah. From an execution perspective, we know the importance of performing movements with good execution and good form. I think over the last year, especially since Jordan, who you follow, perhaps took a slightly different approach to the way that he might look to progress some of his lifts that have now rocketed to the point where he's adding, extra bits of kit to add more weight to machines, etc. Since he did that, which was warranted in his position, a lot of people have harped on and joined the execution bandwagon and started loading up incline hammer strengths with one plate and really trying to fill their upper pectorals, etc. What's your opinion of that? And especially as a younger trainee, how do you think people should potentially analyze their execution and understand whether they're performing things with both enough intensity and accurate execution?
Yeah, dude. First of all, make sure you frequently film yourself during training, because that will give you so much information you can use along the way. Yeah, and sure. I wish I still had my old training videos, because I deleted all of them. And that was a huge mistake, because I just wouldn't love to share those. But at the same time, I would love to look at them, how I executed my lifts, because I'm sure there was some things were wrong with it. But yeah, the thing about progressing and execution is you have to find a handle, because if you try to be super anal about your form on side laterals or curls or whatever, you will never gonna curl any appreciable weight. You're never gonna lift anything appreciable on those isolation exercises. And the same goes for heavier movements, for compound movements. You just have to watch injury risk. And Tom Platz once said, an injury without risk is not worth doing. And he's 100% right. Because if you just go through your mind what exercises are super, super safe, they usually don't do shit. So you have to look at exercises like, if you look at the heavy exercises, you want to keep form definitely stricter. But like I said, you have to find a happy medium between execution and progressing your lifts. So I followed Jordan and his moving towards more execution the last year, and I think that's very reasonable for somebody in his position and at his level.
Yeah, nowhere else to go, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah. There's 200-pound dumbbells, and that's it. Right? So slowing everything down and focusing more on execution and going down to the 150s is probably a good move for him. But if you're not in that position, you want to move up. You want to move up.
Yeah, and to be fair, on the topic of Jordan, I never saw a lift from him that looked out of place. Like,
oh my god,
his pressing was always sublime. Like, it never looked bad. So it was for him, it was literally refining stuff, putting a cherry on top of the cake kind of thing.
Yes.
Whereas with other people, and I made a post about it the other day about the amount of clients that I have that, will send me through initial training clips, and I'm like, you do not have a clue how to train whatsoever. And it's just unfortunate, dude. It really is, because they've got appreciable physiques, but they've built them out of horrendous training. So they make incredible progress in such a short time period by purely just training properly, training with decent execution. So do you work with clients sort of on that perspective? When they sign up, do you get form videos, or do you sort of say throughout the process of working with them, do do you collect videos of them hitting new lifts, etc.?
I do, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
It depends on the training level of that person, because sometimes somebody comes to me who's really advanced, and I already follow them on Instagram or something, and they just follow it. I don't really have to see training videos because I know everything is on point.
Of course.
But for other clients who I really want to know what they're doing when they're in the squat rack or doing a deadlift, I definitely get regular checkups and see what they are doing with their lifts.
Yeah. Numbers are just numbers without, actually performing it well. You can write down a 180 deadlift in a book, but if it's a horrible deadlift, it's not a number in the book that can count anymore.
Dude, absolutely, especially when it comes to judging proximity to failure. So many people tell you about, I don't know, okay, you should do 2 reps in reserve on this set, and then they see the video and it's like 6 reps in reserve, and like, what the hell are you doing? So that definitely makes sense to get video feedback if you use something like reps in reserve or RP or whatever, to just check if they did understand what you're trying to achieve here. But with somebody who's more advanced, things get a lot easier. So
I think that's one of the limitations when it comes to fatigue management or leaving reps in the tank, etc., within a program, because I see most newer trainees mostly training within an intensity which is lower anyway, for the most part. So then telling a newer trainee to then again leave more than that is essentially just going to, and no wonder they'll there's no surprise that they'll progress from week 1 to week 7. It's because they've gone from fucking easy to relatively easy, and that's just, what is that 7 weeks of training?
Yeah, dude, but that's a scale as well, right? Fucking easy to relatively easy is a scale, so there's progress. But I think we are, nowadays, a lot of people are using all the information that is out there to justify training like a pussy, basically. So I think that's a huge problem, because I know quite a few guys at the gym where I train. They train every single day, and they do moderate volume to high volume. It's not like they're doing 4 sets for chest and go home. So people are so damn scared of overtraining or overreaching or getting injured. And usually it's the people that have never trained hard in their entire life that are the most scared of those things. I mean, it's not bad to experience those things, because you will gain some additional insight into your own body, and what you could probably learn from that is a lot better than just reading somebody else's article and they telling you what they have experienced. Experience it yourself, because that's a lot of worth.
I'm with you on that for sure. So on the topic of natural bodybuilding, especially with people who doubt a lot of natural bodybuilders. I mean, I put up the Natty news thing that I did the other day, and one of the first fucking comments was, "Oh, that Nathan guy isn't natural," and I knew that would be the issue, and I know that in future episodes I'll put up some freak, and they'll be natural or at least compete in drug tested federations, and people will comment on it. So, what's your opinion on how people perceive natural limits within nowadays, and where do you perceive natural limits, or do you even, in your head, do you warrant a place for placing natural limitations on things?
No, actually I don't, because I can't put a number on it, and I think a lot of people try to do that. At a certain body weight, you have to be enhanced. And that's just
shit.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing people make a big mistake is they have a certain look in mind, and once you're close to that look, you're immediately enhanced. So I think that's a huge problem, because I mean, every one of us who has ever been on stage and posted a picture online has at least been once accused about taking drugs. Even if you're 65 kgs on stage and you're just tiny, and you have a picture of yourself and you're just looking amazing in that lighting with that color on and everything, and people just have no experience looking at pictures, man. I don't know, I've seen thousands of pictures of bodybuilders, both enhanced and natural, and sooner or later you just get an eye for it, so to speak.
Yeah.
And especially if you work with people, you see so many pictures, man. I mean, you're the same. So it's just much easier to spot things, even though I think that's very, you have to be very careful with that word. Yeah. But it's, for me personally, I'm very naive when it comes to who is natural and who is not, because if somebody tells me he's natural and he's competing for numerous years, numerous seasons in natural federations, different natural federations, then I believe them, man.
Same.
Yeah, then I believe them. Why would I have to be the guy that doubts everyone and everything when they have made reasonable progress from year to year, from show to show, and just like weigh 85 kgs on stage? That's possible if everything is on point, if genetics are on point, training, nutrition, everything. So yeah, Doug Miller is obviously the number one name in that category every time that topic comes up, and I think
he's like in the 190s on stage.
Yeah, man. I mean,
and if he wanted to use drugs, like, cool. He with his height, he'd be an open class bodybuilder, so he'd be well over 212 on stage.
Yeah,
you know, that just makes sense, right?
Exactly. I mean, I think it was Mike Ishotel who once made the example of Big Ramy being natural, and if he took no drugs, he would be like 100 pounds less without the drugs. So he's 340 enhanced and 240 natural. Imagine that, 240 pounds on stage as a natural. Nobody would believe you.
Yeah.
But even if you take some of the best stuff out there, 100 pounds of tissue is quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty good example. And people just underestimate what hard work, genetics, and like decades of work can do. So yeah.
I think it's more believable from the perspective of competing in natural federations within a long period of time, like you said, and also the years of work. Like there's a guy unfortunately circulating at the moment and I actually got in my DMs a message of someone saying this guy should be featured on Natty News, and he's 20, he's fucking unbelievable. I think he was like high 180s on stage.
Okay.
Competed in a non-drug tested competition, and the only thing that's saying to me that he's natural is that he's got natural athlete in his bio, and it's just and those are the type of people that I start to second guess, purely because they haven't, like, Kai Green proved himself in the WNBF. He was a WNBF pro. Sean Clarida is another example, was a WNBF pro.
Yes.
You know, in my opinion, if you wanted to be the best, why don't you just prove yourself and prove to people that you were a fucking sick natural bodybuilder before you then take all the stuff in the world, blow up to huge exponential and become a pro, you know? Like, that to me would be the ideal route in terms of proving people wrong and proving that you've got great genetic potential, in my opinion.
Dude, I'm with you 100% on that. Especially what I really like is that we, by thinking like that and approaching the topic like that, is that we create two camps. Yeah. And we have natural bodybuilders and we have the enhanced guys, the IFBB. And it's like we are both doing the same stuff. And I'm a big fan of some of those guys. And I love watching those shows. And I get motivation from that. So I really hate it when people are like calling enhanced bodybuilders cheaters and everything. Because if you prove, like you just said, if you prove yourself in that one camp and then you go into the other camp, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, as long as you don't compete as a non-natural athlete in tested shows, then everything is fine, man.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. Cool. So I think we've covered like a really decent amount in terms of what I wanted to ask you. We've asked pretty much the majority of the questions that people wanted to ask you as well. So one thing I'd sort of like to leave on, and I'm sure that we'll chat in the future as well, and we'll catch up and we'll get you back on. But one thing I'd sort of like to leave on is what is the long-term goal for you? So you say you want to compete in 2020. You appear to me, like myself, a very goal-orientated person. So I believe that you'll have a vision in your head of what you potentially want to achieve in 2020.
Yes.
What is that? What do you want to do in 2020 ideally?
Yes. With my last show, which was an IPE Pro show in August in Chicago, and me seeing some of the freaks being on stage there, I just thought to myself, I know that I should basically not be here because I'm just done with this season. But the goal for 2020 is certainly going to Worlds, qualifying for Worlds, which is gonna be a big mission. But I will be successful. I'm sure of that. And I just want to prove myself amongst those guys. No matter what class we're talking about, no matter what names we're talking about, I think I can be competitive, and I want to prove that on stage. And I want to prove that by going to Worlds and qualifying for Worlds.
Yeah, for sure. And will you always stick with the IPE? Is that pretty much where you'll stay, do you believe? Or do you think you'll vie for another? And how I mean, I don't really know how it works, whether there's any sort of cross-federation guidelines, so you can't be a pro in two kind of thing. What's your opinion on that? Where do you think you'll head?
That's it. I think a lot of federations should be more open to having pros crossover, because I mean, I think everybody that's competing and everybody that's coaching would wish for one big natural organization, like have one amateur organization, one professional organization, like the MPC and the IFBB or whatever it is now, two pros to pros. And that would be just perfect, because you would have so much more focus and so much more money in one place.
Crazy.
Man, and the sport would be big, so much bigger than it is now.
Yeah.
I still think you have some great federations out there, like the IP, the WNBF, and so on and so forth. And I don't know if I will just compete in the IP in 2020.
Okay.
I will definitely compete there, but maybe look at other federations. And I mean, as fast moving as this whole thing, natural bodybuilding is, there might be 6 different federations at the time. So I will maybe check out other federations. But for now, I will definitely aim at IP Worlds and then see where we go from there.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I hope by that point we'll be sharing a prep together in some sense, and hopefully I'll be vying to compete on some element of a world stage, whether it be amateur or pro. We will see.
I'm certain of that.
Yeah, gotta set the goals high for sure, man. Right. So, is there anything particularly you'd like to leave, Valentin, at all? Where can people, if they potentially want to contact you for coaching, is there any specific way they can contact you, especially for that?
Probably best is just my website. It's just my name, valentintambosi.com.
Okay.
That's it. And I want to leave people with the way they should think about themselves as natural bodybuilders, as natural competitors, and that is, don't set limits on yourself just because you've read a study about natural bodybuilders being able to just build 1 pound of muscle per year. Forget that stuff, man. Try to optimize everything. Try to optimize every variable in your training and nutrition, in your recovery and everything, and then see if it's just 1 pound a year. Because I'm pretty sure it's gonna be more.
Yeah.
And if you leave everything in there, it will be more. So the way you think can really accelerate your progress. So do that.
It's all up here. All up here.
Yes, sir.
And therefore the action that you create by thinking up here, you know, it's not just, I'm going to think it. It's fucking think it and then action it, you know.
Exactly.
Cool. Awesome. Well, mate, thank you very much for your time again. Really appreciate it. I'm sure people will take home a lot from this episode. And like we said, if you do want to contact Valentin for coaching or any just general inquiries, reach out through his website or hit him up on Instagram. He's always very active on there. So cheers for listening, guys, and we'll chat soon. See you in a bit. Bye-bye. Cool, mate.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Thanks very much. That was wicked.
Yeah, it was good, man. A lot of different topics covered.
Yeah, as I knew it would be. It would be awesome. Always is.
Yeah. Thanks,
cool, man. Well, I'll leave you to your evening, and I will let you know at some point when I plan on doing a short little trip to Vienna, and I'll come train at Intelligent Strength.
Dude, you would love it. Just let me know. I will get you in for free and everything. So cool. This place is just gonna get better and better every week.
Looks incredible, dude.
Yeah.
One question: how far is it from like sort of relatively central Vienna? It's not far, is it?
Oh, by subway it's like 12 minutes.
Yeah, no, because I sort of did a location on it last night. It doesn't look far. That's wicked. So I can sort of combine the two.
It's super awesome. It's super awesome. Plus, in the future, Andy, the owner, is planning to have like randomly fly in really popular people to just train there.
Fuck.
Because they can stay at the gym and sleep at the gym and eat at the gym and everything. And he just pays them a certain amount of money to just train there. And he has like names like Eddie Hall in mind to just have Eddie Hall come in for like 4 days and just train there without announcing it, anything. All of a sudden, Eddie Hall shows up at the gym. And we have Mike Toshiro coming in the summer.
For seminar kind of thing.
Yes, with the whole RTS crew. They come for like 2 days and do a seminar. And Cliff is coming in December.
Okay, cool.
So, really awesome, man. So good stuff happening.
Amazing. Yeah. Cool. Awesome, man. Well, we'll catch up soon. Keep doing what you're doing. And,
hey, you too, man.
Thanks for your time. See you in a bit, mate.
Okay, Aj.
Bye-bye.
Bye.